There comes a moment in life when you realize that holding on is what's hurting you, not the loss, not the absence, not what's changing, but your resistance to letting go. You try to control outcomes. You cling to people, to expectations, to memories that no longer exist in the present moment. And slowly, without noticing, that attachment becomes your suffering. Have you ever felt that? That quiet anxiety when things don't go the way you planned. That heaviness in your chest when someone pulls away. That fear of losing something you believe you need to be whole. What if the pain is not in losing, but in holding on? Buddhist teachings reveal something that can completely transform your life. Suffering does not come from what happens to you. It comes from your attachment to how things should be. Right here, in this moment. If you're still listening, it's not by accident. Something in you is ready to change. So take a conscious action. Subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and anchor this moment by writing in the comments, "I release what no longer serves me." Because transformation doesn't begin tomorrow. It begins the moment you decide. Now, stay with me. And here is the truth most people are afraid to face. Everything changes. Everything fades. Everything you try to hold on to eventually slips through your fingers. But this is not a tragedy. It is an invitation. An invitation to live freely, to love without fear, to experience life without chains. Because the moment you stop clinging, the moment you release your grip on what you cannot control, something extraordinary happens. You don't lose. You become lighter, clearer, stronger. You begin to experience a peace that does not depend on anyone or anything. In this journey, you will discover the true power of detachment, not as cold indifference, but as deep inner freedom. So take a breath. Let go, just for a moment, and allow yourself to see life as it truly is. From the outside, attachment can look like love, like commitment, like caring deeply. But beneath the surface, attachment often carries something much heavier: dependence, fear, need. In Buddhist understanding, attachment is not simply loving something or someone. It is the insistence that it must remain, must stay the same, must not leave. And that insistence is where suffering begins. Think about it. When you hold a flower gently, you can admire its beauty. You can appreciate its fragrance, its presence, its life. But the moment you try to own it, to control it, to make sure it never withers, you have already lost the peace it once gave you. Because now, fear has entered. Fear of losing it. Fear of change. Fear of the inevitable. Attachment whispers quietly in your mind. This must last forever. This cannot change. I cannot be okay without this. And without realizing it, you begin to build your emotional world on something that was never meant to be permanent. This is the silent trap. You are not suffering because you love. You are suffering because you are attached to how that love should exist. You are not suffering because life changes. You are suffering because you resist that change. Everything in life moves. Relationships evolve. People transform. Moments pass. But attachment tries to freeze reality, and reality never agrees. That is why even the most beautiful experiences can become sources of pain. Not because they are wrong, but because we try to hold them beyond their natural time. Now, this does not mean you must stop loving. In fact, true Buddhist wisdom teaches the opposite. Love deeply, but without clinging. Care fully, but without control. Be present, but without possession. Because the moment you release attachment, love becomes lighter, cleaner, freer. You no longer love out of fear of losing. You love out of fullness. And in that space, there is no suffering, only peace. There is a quiet belief that lives in the mind, a belief so subtle that most people never question it. If I try hard enough, I can control what happens, control the outcome, control people, control emotions, control life itself. But the truth is far more uncomfortable and far more liberating. You were never in control to begin with. You can influence. You can act. You can choose your intentions. But you cannot control the results. And yet, the mind resists this truth. It plans, it worries, it replays conversations, it imagines scenarios, all in an attempt to create certainty in a world that is inherently uncertain. Have you noticed how exhausting that is? Trying to predict everything, trying to prevent pain, trying to make sure nothing goes wrong, and still, things change. Still, people surprise you. Still, life unfolds in ways you never expected. This is where suffering deepens, because attachment and control are deeply connected. The more attached you are, the more you feel the need to control, and the more you try to control, the more anxiety you create. It becomes a cycle. You hold on, you try to control, you feel fear, you suffer. But what happens when you interrupt that cycle? What happens when, instead of forcing life, you begin to trust it? Imagine standing in a river. If you resist the current, you exhaust yourself. You fight, you struggle, you panic. But if you allow yourself to flow, if you move with the water instead of against it, you don't drown. You adapt. Life is that river. You cannot stop its movement. You cannot command its direction. But you can choose how you respond to it. Letting go of control does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means understanding a deeper truth. Peace is not found in controlling life. It is found in aligning with it. When you release the need to control every outcome, your mind becomes quieter. When you stop forcing people to be who you want them to be, your relationships become lighter. And when you accept that uncertainty is part of existence, fear begins to lose its power, because you finally understand. You don't need control to be at peace. You only need acceptance. And in that acceptance, you begin to experience a freedom that most people spend their entire lives searching for. Letting go is not losing, it is freedom. One of the greatest fears you carry is the belief that if you let go, you will lose something important. Lose a person, lose an opportunity, lose a part of yourself. And so, you hold tighter. You cling to what is already slipping away. You resist what is already changing. You try to keep alive what has already completed its cycle. But here is the deeper truth. Letting go is not an act of loss. It is an act of liberation. When you hold on to something that no longer flows naturally in your life, you don't preserve it. You imprison yourself with it. Every forced connection, every outdated expectation, every memory you refuse to release, becomes weight. And over time, that weight turns into emotional exhaustion. Letting go is not about rejecting the past. It is about honoring it, without carrying it. Think of your hand. If you keep it closed, gripping tightly, eventually it hurts. It becomes tense, rigid, tired. But when you open your hand, there is relief. There is space. There is possibility. This is what happens when you let go. You are not empty. You are available. Available for new experiences, new connections, new peace. Many people believe that holding on proves strength. But, in truth, clinging is often fear in disguise. Real strength is the ability to release, even when your mind tells you to hold on, because you trust something deeper. You trust that what is meant to stay will stay, and what is meant to leave is making space for something aligned with who you are becoming. Letting go also transforms how you love. You stop loving from fear of abandonment and begin loving from presence. You stop saying, "Don't leave me," and start embodying, "I appreciate you while you are here." And that shift changes everything, because now you are no longer dependent. You are not grasping. You are not chasing permanence in an impermanent world. You are simply experiencing life fully. So understand this clearly. You are not losing when you let go. You are releasing what no longer belongs to you. And in that release, you return to yourself. The fear of letting go. Why you hold on even when it hurts. If letting go brings peace, why is it so hard to do? Why do you keep holding on, even when it hurts? The answer is not weakness. It is fear. A deep, unconscious fear that tells you, if I let this go, what will be left? Who will I be without this? What if nothing better comes? So instead of stepping into the unknown, you choose familiar pain. Because the mind finds comfort in what it recognizes, even if it is suffering. You stay in relationships that drain you. You replay memories that hurt you. You hold onto identities that no longer reflect who you are, not because they fulfill you, but because they feel known. This is the paradox of attachment. You are not holding on because it feels good. You are holding on because letting go feels uncertain. And to the mind, uncertainty feels like danger. But look deeper. Every moment of growth in your life came from stepping into the unknown. Every transformation required you to release something first. Still, fear creates illusions. It tells you that letting go means emptiness, that without that person, that situation, that outcome, you will somehow become less. But the truth is the opposite. What you are holding onto may be the very thing preventing your expansion. Imagine carrying a heavy weight for years. At some point, you forget what it feels like to walk freely. You begin to believe that the weight is part of you. And when someone tells you to drop it, you hesitate, not because you need it, but because you don't remember who you are without it. This is what fear does. It convinces you that your attachments define you. But they don't. You are not your past. You are not your relationships. You are not your fears. You are the awareness behind all of it. And that awareness is already whole. Letting go is not the destruction of your identity. It is the discovery of your true self, beyond everything you cling to. Yes, it feels uncomfortable. Yes, it feels uncertain. But within that uncertainty, there is space. And within that space, there is possibility. So the next time you feel the urge to hold on, pause. Ask yourself honestly, am I holding on out of love or out of fear? Because that answer will show you the path to your freedom. Detachment in real life. How to practice it daily. Detachment is not something you understand once. It is something you practice every single day. Not in isolation, not in silence, but in the middle of real life, in your relationships, in your expectations, in the way you respond to what you cannot control. Detachment begins in the smallest moments. When someone doesn't respond the way you expected, and instead of reacting, you breathe. When a plan falls apart, and instead of resisting, you adapt. When life doesn't match your vision, and instead of forcing it, you accept it. This is the practice. Simple, subtle, powerful. You don't need to walk away from everything. You don't need to stop caring. You only need to release the grip that says, this must happen my way. This cannot change. I need this to be okay. And replace it with something deeper. I trust the flow of life. I allow things to come and go. I remain at peace, no matter what changes. At first, It will feel unnatural. Your mind will try to go back to control, to attachment, to fear. But with awareness, you begin to choose differently, again and again, until peace becomes your natural state. Because detachment is not about losing life. It is about finally experiencing it without resistance. One day, you will look back and realize something profound. Everything you were afraid to lose was never truly yours to keep. And everything that was truly meant for you never required you to suffer to hold on to it. In that moment, you will understand that peace was never in controlling, never in clinging, never in forcing life to obey your desires. Peace was always in letting go, in trusting, in allowing, in flowing with what is. So today, right now, you have a choice. You can continue holding on, tightening your grip, fighting against change, or you can soften, you can release, you can finally allow life to move, and move with it. Take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that is holding me back? And when you find the answer, don't fight it, don't fear it, just let it go, because in that moment, you won't lose anything. You will gain everything that truly matters: peace, freedom, and a life finally lived without chains.